That is right, folks. Welcome to the final edition. Well, not actually the final edition. We still have to quilt it, but the final patchwork piecing edition of Charisma Horton's Summer Camp Quilt. This has been an incredible experience. If you're just catching this video for the first one, you'll have to go back and watch the rest of the construction of the blocks. I was on a progressive quilt making camping adventure. I think that's what I want to call it. Progressive quilt making camping adventure, where I camped in different locations creating all of the different blocks from our summer camp quilt. I hit a little unseasonal weather, so yes, it's still a little chilly outside, but I'm having a great time. I am filming today live in front of a audience. I have several dogs around me, and the chickens are back in the coop there at Charisma's house. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed at the moment that the camera doesn't get knocked over and the audio's okay, but we're going to have a great time, and we're going to put all of the blocks together now from the Summer Camp Quilt pattern. So if you don't have the pattern, if you don't have the kit, you can find the link below. Of course, you can get a digital download from Charisma herself, or of course, like I said, you can get the kit featuring the Benartex Shadow Blush fabrics, which are a beautiful mottled solid that I just love working with. The hand is fantastic. They've been perfect for this quilt, and the quilt finishes at 60 by 72 inches. And what we're doing today is we're looking at the actual instructions here on page 5. And so on page 5, you're going to find your layout diagram, and you can see we're just going to go block by block by block. So we really don't need a design wall much. I'm going to follow the colors on Charisma's color chart for which tent to place in which location. As far as the big trees, if you'll remember, the big trees are random blocks, and the little trees are kind of random as well. So we're just going to play. All of the stars are the same. The campfire is the same as far as color goes and things. So we're just going to now start to go ahead and put the blocks together in rows so that we can build our quilt top. Now, before I got to this point, I have taken the time to trim all of the blocks down to 12.5-inch squares, and I've stacked them in organizational piles. So like I've got my 2 campfires, and then I've got my little trees here, and then I've got my big trees. And so it's going to be easiest now to go ahead and work through if I just keep my piles organized this way so that I can grab them and go as we start working on our top row. Okay, wind isn't too bad right now, so I think I'm safe. Maybe I'll keep my little bean bag there just in case. So I'm going to need 1 star to start with. Okay, and then I need my moon, and then I'm going to need another star in my solid. So we're going to bring these up to the top of our stack. Okay, and so now the biggest key is I just want to figure out which way do I want my moon facing. Do I want to face it pointing slightly downward? I definitely don't want it pointing that far up. But if I wanted a little curve, even though it's slightly different than Charisma's pattern, I could put it this way. But let me show you a design trick, folks. See this? The moon's technically still pointing towards the quilt. If I put it the way I have it, the moon would be pointing away from the quilt. So I'm going to do what Charisma's done, and I'm going to put it in that same format there. And so the first thing I have to do is literally just match up these 2 seams. I'm going to go right sides together here, matching up corner to corner. And now this is where you want to be nice and accurate and keep that 1/4-inch seam allowance going on all of your patchwork. And to help me with keeping everything accurate, I found it in my toolbox. I just wasn't using it earlier, but this is a magnetic seam guide. So I can go ahead and put this. Now the presser foot on the actual featherweight's got a big ankle. So I'm just going to kind of put it right here. And that's magnetized, and that's going to help me keep my seam allowances as accurate and consistent as possible. Just making sure that I still have the correct seams lined up here, as I had to take a moment to rethread. And now I'm just going to go ahead and lay those fabrics there. If you want to start back stitching at the corners, you can, but we will be stitching over all of them. And we're going to do free motion quilting on this. My goal was to get my quilt completely finished before I got here to Charisma's house. So she says I can't come inside until I get the quilt top finished. So I'm making it on her porch. You can see we've got the wonderful quilt barn to be in the background. We've got the chickens in the background. So I'm doing my best to get my quilt top done so I can come inside and we can start quilting this, folks. Well, hello, sweetie. This is Venus, if you can see her over there. Okay, so now what we're going to go ahead and do, even with my little portable mini iron, is I'm just going to press as I go. Each block, I just really like to do this. And if I can stay organized, I'll press the top row all the way towards the right-hand direction. And then when I start to build the next row down, I'll actually start in the other corner. And that way I can be pressing in the left-hand direction so that these seams can be nested. Okay, back to our diagram. I need one more star block after the moon. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and do that, matching up the corners. And that's why it was so key for me to spend a little bit of time and trim all of the blocks down. I did actually patchwork on several different machines in many different locations, and so my blocks were a little wonky at first, but fortunately they were all large enough to be trimmed to a nice 12.5. Pressing into each block, each new block as I go, just to stay organized there. Okay, so after the 2 stars and moon is that one blank block, the one I called the easiest of all the blocks to make. And so easy, that one's just going to drop right in. And then we'll have one more star and we'll be done with the top row. So if you've never made a quilt before, what you want to do is you want to now make all of your rows before you join any of the rows into actual making the quilt top itself. It's just much easier, and this way you can stay organized, and you can also double check to make sure that your blocks are all in the correct orientation before you start sewing the rows together. Now if you're using a design wall, it's much easier to stay organized and accurate. And funny enough, and maybe it's a good tip, but I'll try it later, but I actually brought some magnets along when I left home, thinking I could use the side of my car with it, the magnets, as the design wall for sewing outdoors. So we'll go ahead and finish this row and we'll magnetize it to the car and see if that was a good idea or not. Okay, and then there's the first row we have. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks in every row that we need to make. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and set this on my new magnetic design wall, and I'll be back after I have all of the rows sewn together to show you how to put those rows together a few at a time, and then we will get this quilt quilted. This is great, the magnets actually work. So yes, go ahead, if you don't have another kind of design wall, you can start laying out your rows. So here's our top row and our second row, magnetically placed on my design wall here. So now I'm just going to marry up this seam right here, and all of my other rows are actually already stacked over at the machine in order. So I'm just going to grab this seam, carry it over to Louie, the wonderful old antique singer, and get this assembled for us all. All right, I'm so glad that design wall worked awesome. So now I've got that seam together. And like I said, I've got the rest of the rows organized, and I did take the time to make sure they're in sequential order, and all of the tops are facing that direction right now. I do apologize about the audio a little bit. I'm racing against the rain, and the neighbor is having his yard graded. But when you work outdoors, these are just some of the fun things that we get to experience, right? So no big deal. We're just going to sew this row together, and I'll be right back with the whole quilt top assembled. I just wanted you to get a feel for the way this goes if you've never made a quilt before. So you can see it all coming together, and also, again, really fun. We've had plenty of power. Even though I'm at Charisma's home, I'm still running off of the battery for both the machine and the iron. So I will give us also a power check at the end of the day, because I will have several hours of stitching in a row without adding power from solar or driving, so we'll have a really good reading at the end of this assembly today. The key is just to marry up the seams from each block section. That's why we are kind of pressing them in different directions. So as long as I keep matching up each of those seams at the blocks, then even without pins, I'm fairly confident that everything is lining up real nice and easy, which is great. I know many of the modern machines have extra feed systems and things that help with that, but that's been really the fun of sewing on this wonderful old antique while traveling through the Pacific Northwest and over here to Eastern Washington, just having the benefits of old-fashioned sewing outdoors, of course. Okay, folks, so we're just double checking to make sure we have it all as we're supposed to. So there's the 2 rows put together now. And I'm not going to take the time to press it out. My little iron I have with me would work, but it would take an awful lot of time. And one of my things I always do before I quilt any quilt top is I take the time to really steam and press it and make sure everything's really nice and crisp before we put it on the long arm. The reason we traveled all the way from California to Eastern Washington with Charisma Horton's pattern is so that we could have her help quilting it. She's an amazing long arm quilter and she's right inside. So as soon as I get this top done, I'll go inside, press all the seams real nice, and I'll have Charisma help us load it to her long arm, and we're just gonna see what happens from there. So this is really awesome. I'll be right back to show you the entire quilt top. And we are just moments away from the grand finale of our summer camp. This has been great. So glad you've been traveling with me, enjoying my adventure each step of the way. It has been a huge blessing. I have met wonderful people, had wonderful food, seen wonderful things, experienced stuff I didn't expect to experience, which is the nature of all great adventures and camping trips. So now I'm just going to go ahead and lay this third row on and keep on stitching. Ooh, it's getting chilly again. Weather's coming in, folks. So glad I almost have my quilt top done. We are in the last, looks like about 12, now 6 inches. This is amazing. I'm so excited. Get a quick shot of this before it starts to rain on my back here in Charisma's wonderful yard. Chickens are watching. They're cheering along in the background. Dogs have gone inside due to the weather. And that is it, folks, the final stitch. This is amazing. Now, I can tell you that we've used about 15% of the whole battery today, which is not bad at all, with all the sewing and ironing for the last several hours. And I'm hoping you can see this incredible summer camp quilt in the little bit of wind here that we're having, but it's so awesome. And that's right, folks, I am so very blessed and excited to have the entire quilt top done, standing on Charisma's porch. So I am going to get inside for the next video and have Charisma help me quilt this wonderful quilt top. I'm so blessed to have had all of you join me for the adventure. If you didn't see any of the other videos, they'll always be available so you can go back and learn how to do each block as we go, plus the bonus how to trim the blocks. So again, it's been an incredible, incredible adventure. I'm so SEW glad you were along with me. Now, let's get inside, but until we get this thing quilted, friends, you know what I always say, stay well. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps support our channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Hit the little button to be notified every time we go live or do a new video for all of you. And here's one from the past I think you'll really enjoy.